And we are back on the midweek mailbag. Senior Bowl week, all sorts of fun things happening. Let's stick here with some draft talk. Devon Witherspoon, maybe one of the bigger names. Well, he was supposed to be down at the Senior Bowl, but I believe he was one of the few that backed out, right?
Correct.
But
Correct. I think he started reading mock drafts.
and it's just like, okay, I'm someone really hit the hype machine on him like a week before the Senior Bowl. It's like, oh, I don't need to go. We're good. But speaking of, cornerback is obviously one of the bigger needs for the Lions and one of the bigger mocked to positions, both at 6 and 18. So Jason Krolik asks, who's the better fit for the Lions defense, Devon Witherspoon or Christian Gonzalez?
Witherspoon. In my mind, it's not close.
Oh,
But Gonzalez is going to be the guy that's going. Him and Porter are going to be the guys that are like these long prototype corners.
right.
They can run. They can do press man. They're going to be very athletic. They're going to be the guys that you would take in the top five in most drafts. You know what I mean? Like they're going to have all those skills. They're probably both going to go in the top 20 when it's all said and done. But Witherspoon is the one who fits the scheme, fits the personality, fits the culture,
Yeah.
all of that, right? And so yes, Witherspoon is he's not 6'2", he's only going to be about 6 foot. He's not 210 or 205 like the other guys are. He's only going to be in like 185, 190 range. But he drives with aggression. He plays downhill. He plays against the run. He's fearless in coverage. He's excellent in press man. He hits like a truck, and he doesn't just hit you, but he like hits you and wants you to know that he hits you. He takes things personally. He has an absolute love for the game, and there's everything that he does fits the mold of what the Lions are going to be looking for, and he's going to remind Aaron Glenn of Aaron Glenn. And so yes, so Witherspoon is the one who fits the scheme, the talent, the culture better than probably any corner in this class.
I can't disagree with you on most of that. The only thing I'll say is like 100% culture fit. Like that, like there
Yeah.
might not be a guy in the draft that better fits what they're looking for in general than Devon Witherspoon there. The size is going to matter though, and
Yep.
the Lions, I mean, they need better coverage guys. And I'm not saying one of these guys are better in coverage than the other, but when you have someone that is only a buck 83 or whatever Devon Witherspoon is currently measured in,
Mm-hmm.
can get bullied. He can get bullied by bigger receivers, and he's going to be going up against bigger. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
look in the division. There are a lot of big bullying receivers in this division, and so that has to be at least a mild concern. Not to say he's even going to scrap with these guys. He's definitely going to scrap with them, and he's going to put up a heck of a fight. And I know he loves press, right? Like he lives
Mm-hmm.
off of that. But there is a physical limitation now. If you look at some of the guys the Lions have drafted, we've said that about some of the other guys that they've drafted. They've got physical limitations. Malcolm Rodriguez is too small. Uh, Hutchinson, his arms are too short.
Right.
And those are the kind of guys, and maybe that's who Devon Witherspoon is. It was like he's going to overcome his physical limitations because he is that kind of tenacious football player that he is, and maybe that's enough for the Lions. But
Mm-hmm.
it's something that they're going to at least consider with some of these other guys.
Yeah, and I think it could cause him to slide a little bit. Um, I comped him to Jair Alexander, which is he's 5'10". Alexander's 5'10", 195, right?
Really?
Like, yeah, he was a guy that similar things were said about him, which is why he slid to 18,
Yeah.
where the Packers drafted him.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, Interesting that Lions pick 18. But I do think Alexander is a guy who he just when you watch the style of game, and this is the hard thing about with this regime, right? Like with previous regimes, you could look at a guy, you could look at the skill sets, you could look at the athleticism, and you could say, this is the type of guy that they're going to like. They're going to want this talent that they're going to mold to what they can do. It's so hard with this regime because regime spent so much time looking at like film and game film and investing in that, and then they use the athletic component as like a bonus, like is just like to kind of push them in love with the guy.
Right.
This is what Alexander is going to have. Alexander is going to have everything that they want from a field player perspective, but maybe he might have a couple of question marks in the athletic department. And then are they willing to overlook those? Because, you know, like when Aaron Glenn talked about Hutchinson's arm length, he at one point he was like, does it really matter? We're talking about like this little tiny bit.
Yeah.
And as I always like to point out, you can't just solely go on measurables because there are ways that you manipulate those measurables in the way you play the game. Right. Yep. Just because a guy 100%. Runs, just because a guy runs a 4.640, right? There's this guy in the draft, he runs a 4.59, and you look at him and you're like, geez, he's under 6 feet, he's under 200 pounds, he runs a 4.59, he's got pretty good routes that he runs, but there's nothing special about him athletically. He's about a 7 in RAS,
I think I know where this is going.
Okay. Yeah, that's Amon-Ra.
Yeah.
Right? Like that's Amon-Ra right there, right? And so like this staff is going to say, hey, if you can do the things we like on tape, and then you put yourself in that 90th percentile, 80th percentile, then great. That's going to make us enticing for you more. But like Hutchinson overcomes his lack of length on the arm because he leans, or because his shoulders are a little bit longer, or because of the way he angles his aggression. Amon-Ra overcomes the 4.59 40 speed because he does everything else to precision, and he picks the speed up that way.
Doesn't waste a step.
Like, right. There are so many guys that are like these 4.3 guys that aren't going to be as skilled or as fast as Amon-Ra because there's wasted motion.
Yep. And
there's things like that because you don't play football on a straight line, right? And so, yes, the athletic skills are great, and they can be priorities, as when you're as double checks, but the athletic part isn't going to drive the Lions to rank a guy higher than what the film says. And to me, the film says Witherspoon is probably CB1 for them.
And it's interesting. I don't disagree with anything you said there, but it's interesting because even saying everything you said, which is absolutely all true, the Lions are still drafting extremely athletic guys. Their draft class under Brad Hall
crazy.
Have been top in RAS, right?
Yeah, it's crazy. Like the way that he finds that marriage is really unique.
Yep.
Because look, just go to the edge guys, right? I'll pull up. Hutchinson's RAS was 9.88. Pascal's was 9.7. James Houston's was 7.93.
Right.
Like,
so
they're all in that upper echelon.
They're not ignoring athleticism by any mean, but it's those little nitpicky things that get, magnified this time of year, where we're all obsessing over Kenny Pickett's hand size a year ago. Those are the things that I don't think bother the Lions, and might bother other teams a little bit more than they would in Detroit.
Here's something that you might find interesting. John Kaminsky's RAS, 9.42. If you add Romeo and Charles Harris, they almost catch him.